Are you familiar with the 80-20 rule? I'm sure everyone's heard of it and has probably experienced it. It's not a math question, 80-20 equals 100. That's not what it is, because math is difficult for me. Math is difficult, it really is, because 15 plus 15 equals 16 plus 16 equals 32. See, it's just, but the 80-20 rule exists in many areas. 80% of emails sent by 20% of users. 80% of decisions and outcomes in meetings is made in about 20% of the time of that meeting. And in church, 80% of the coffee is really bad. It just is, coffee church. 80% of the people, 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people is the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule in the church. It's uncanny how almost close that is in just about every church. 20% of the people doing 80% of the work. Is it because we lack motivation to take on something outside of Sunday morning worship? Years can go by as a person who is faithfully attending on Sundays. And after years of attending every Sunday, that may just be the way it is. We become complacent. We get used to it. It's how we practice our piety. What motivation will work on a Christian to save the lost, to help others? What prompted Jesus to save the lost? What prompted him to come to this earth? What propelled him to go, like it says in the gospel, from city to city with this gospel message of his? What moved him to endure the shame and pain of dying on the cross? Was it motivation? Was it his strong sense of purpose? This is what I came for. I'm supposed to be doing this. Because as it says in John chapter 6, he came to do his Father's will. Perhaps that's the reason he did all that for us. Was it because of the exalted place that he would have on the other side, sitting at the right hand of the Father? I believe this. I believe it was not motivation. He did not minister because he had the time. He did not serve because of how people referred to him as Lord, teacher, master, and followed him and grasped onto every morsel of wisdom he would hand out. He didn't take on the work of the Father because he had an image to live into. I believe there was only one factor, and that factor is mentioned in today's gospel. Verse 36, when he saw the hordes, the crowd, the people as far as you could see, he was moved with compassion for them. Excuse me. I've been fending off a little cold and writing this sermon with that in mind, so it might be a little discombobulated. Sorry. Discombobulated, that's a word, isn't it? What does that mean? Discombobulate means to make it all, Well, what does combobulate mean? What does combobulate mean? Yeah? I like looking up words that begin with the prefix com, with. Okay? With bobulate. What is that word? And so I looked it up because I like doing this stuff like that. Actually, it's not a word that begins with the prefix com, which means with. in Latin. It is the root word is comprise. So, or compose. Comprise and compose are interchangeable in that definition of combobulate. So discombobulate means discomprised, discomposed, and that's what that word is. But I do like following words that often begin with com, like this one. With prehension. We don't use that word very often, but we know the meaning of this word, right? We understand that this means with understanding, with knowledge, with wisdom, with an awareness of what we are doing and or talking about. I comprehend, entiendo yo, I understand, with comprehension. There's this word. Actually, it's a couple words. You know what compadre means? You know, sometimes even people that speak only English will say, hey, compadre. Got that wrong idea. We're not friends. I mean, we are friends, but that's not what compadre means. In Latin, cum, which means with, padre, father. This is a much stronger bond than just, hey, my friend, or comadre, female version. It's more than just a friend. These are actually to the point where one is a godparent to one of my children. If a person is one of my children's godparent, they're my compadre or comadre. They are that close that they are like my kid is with a father when I'm not there, and with a mother when I'm not there. That's how close that bond is, how powerful that word is. It's not just a greeting of, hey, friend. And that's why looking up these words just speaks to me a lot, because this one is another one, probably my favorite. With the second syllable is also Latin, and what does it mean? Pan. In Espanol, bread. With one who breaks bread. This is a companion. This is more than a friend. This is one that I am willing to break bread with. I am willing to invite to my table. I am willing to be so close to this person that we can eat off the same plate. Companion, with one who I will break bread with. That's how powerful that word is. And we just kind of toss it around sometimes and just understand that means, I know this person. I get along. We hang out sometimes. And then there's the word for today, compassion. The meaning is not with passion, you know, the passion of the Christ, right? That's what we think. It's like with sympathy, with the feelings, with a heart that we understand what Jesus Christ was going through in that incredible movie of the Passion of the Christ. And even that is not strong enough in understanding what the word means. It's more than sympathize. It means to be with someone who's going to bear everything, who wants to bear everything, who wants to suffer equally with you. That's compassion. Because the root of this word comes from the Greek, a noun that means, let's see, how to be sensitive if you haven't had your breakfast. The root word means entrails, bowels, gut. Same word. The emotion of compassion is so deep, it's like pain here for the person who has compassion for the other. The desire to help, it's not just a thought, it's not just an emotion, it is pain here that makes that person want to help. And that's the compassion that fell upon Jesus. The gospel today is like a transition, because the previous 5 chapters 4 through most of 9, are about the mission, or about the holiness of Christ, as Matthew is showing Jesus as Messiah, as Lord in word and deed. He is giving all kinds of stories about questions about fasting and healing 2 blind men, and the Sermon on the Mount, healing a storm, stopping a storm. This is only a Lord of creation could do that, and that's what Matthew is telling us in the first 9 chapters. And then we get to this passage, which transitions us into the next message that Matthew has, beginning in chapter 10, and that is, we got work to do. The mission of the people. After this, Jesus sends out the 12 to the lost and the hurting. He sends them out with authority to cast out demons, to heal every disease, to heal every affliction, to raise the dead. That's the mission of the church. The first reading today was from the Acts of the Apostles, not from the Acts of Jesus. Although if you read it, the apostles are talking about the Acts of Jesus. But this is about the first book after the gospel is mission. Is, okay, now what do we do? Now we've got our charge. Now we know the whole story. What's the rest of the story? I believe that it's compassion that drives mission for Jesus, and we see it throughout the Gospels. We see it in the parable of the unforgiving servant, and Jesus is very specific when it comes to our relationship with others in this passage. Therefore, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who wished to settle accounts with his servants. And when he began to settle, one was brought to him who owed him 10,000 talents. And since he could not pay, his master ordered him to be sold with his wife and children, and all that he had, and payment to be made. So the servant fell on his knees, imploring him, "Have patience with me, and I will pay you everything." And the master had compassion for him, and released him, and forgave him the debt. Interject in there whatever works for you to understand the depth of that compassion, that it hurts here. Jesus did not plan to feed the 5,000. The apostles returned to Jesus and told him all that they had done and taught. And he said to them, "Come away by yourselves to a desolate place and rest a while." For many were coming and going, and they had no leisure, even a break to eat. They went away into the boat to a desolate place by themselves. Now many saw them going and recognized them, and they ran there on foot from all the towns and got there ahead of them. When they went ashore, he saw a great crowd, and he had compassion. It didn't say he liked them. He was pleased to see them. Didn't say he appreciated the respect. It said he had a compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd, and began to teach them many things out of that pain, that burden to bear what they were going through. Compassion. A widow's only son died. Jesus came across the funeral procession, but he did not feel sorry for her. Soon afterward, he went to a town called Nain, and his disciples and a great crowd went with him. And as he drew near to the gate of the town, behold, a man who had died was being carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. And a considerable crowd from the town was with her. And when the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her and said to her, "Do not weep." And then he came up, touched the bier, and the bearers stood still, and he said, "Young man, I say to you, "Arise." And the dead man sat up and began to speak. And Jesus came to his mother. Compassion. Fear seized them all. Because sometimes we don't know what that compassion's like. Sometimes we take it for granted that it is that sympathetic feeling, oh, I feel bad for this person. Let me see what I can do to help. But that's not it. It was, I got to take this away from them. I have to remove this from them. Jesus was truly moved by compassion for the lost. He did not need motivation. He did what he could to meet their needs. Are we moved when we see the compassion of Jesus? Are we moved when we see multitudes of people who are without Christ? Can we say we have compassion for the lost? If I meet a stranger, is he or she still a stranger? Are the lost still lost? I think the answers to those questions reveal a lot about our compassion. So what do I do about it? Is it possible to get compassion? Well, if the compassion is the emotion, sympathy, no. I mean, emotions are come and go, and you can't force an emotion. That's disingenuous. It's a lie. You don't want to do that. But if we let God teach us how to love, by this we know love, that he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brothers and the sisters. But if anyone has the world's goods and sees his brother in need, yet closes his heart against him, how does God's love abide in him? Little children, let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and in truth. God teaches us compassion through his Son, Jesus. In 2023, there were 3.6 million babies born in the U.S. That same year, 6.3 million were born in all of Europe and Russia. Already up to 13 million new babies in 1 year. 7.2 million in 2023 were born in Nigeria alone. We have a tremendous opportunity. Jesus said the same thing to his followers back then as he's saying to us now. The harvest is plentiful. We have a tremendous opportunity. So I pray that we not be isolated from people. And that we understand that texting is not compassion. Going, "Aw," to a heartfelt video on TikTok is not compassion. Compassion doesn't have to be a solitary endeavor. We all can practice it together or individually. Doing whatever we can does not have to be done alone. Accept the invitation to be involved in mission, ministry. Better yet, invite others to join you in the work of the lost. Because it's your work, now. Amen.